'Tis the season for dazzling Christmas deals thanks to The Warehouse. The Warehouse is unboxing mega deals every day until December 20. Deals are for one day only, so when they drop, make sure to race to the shop. Visit The Warehouse this Christmas.
You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from News Talk ZB.
1:44. It's around about this time on a Sunday that we catch up with James McOnie from the Alternative Commentary Collective, Crowd Goes Wild, and various other bits and pieces. I think you're actually working for the ACC today, are you? But you've taken time out of that schedule to join us.
Yeah, I've escaped the ACC. I've come to see you, Piney, and looking forward to a great afternoon's cricket with Matt Henry so far looking the goods.
Yeah, hasn't he just become this spearhead? You know, you think about the days of Southey and Bolt and Wagner, which are almost at an end, and Matt Henry's had to be patient, hasn't he? But man, he's 2 for 29 so far in this innings. He's our leading seam bowling light now.
He is, and in fact, just before lunch, I would have thought, maybe give Will O'Rourke an over or two, but I guess this is Tim's test, and that's fine, but I just think it's looking like there's a chance to strike while the iron's hot. But we were talking last week, Piney, what needs to happen, and I think they've listened to us because we were talking about Will Young, Mitch Santner. They've come in and they did a job with the bat, did pretty well, so now it's up to, I wonder when Mitch will get chucked the ball on his home pitch as well. Yeah, I think that'll happen this afternoon, particularly if the wickets start to dry up a little bit. You get the feeling that Mitchell Santner will get the ball in his hand. Hey, a few topics to talk about. I wanted to get your view on the A-League shortly, but can we start with rugby? Had the delight of chatting to Wallace Satiti on the show yesterday after he won All Blacks Player of the Year. Hoskins Sotutu, Super Rugby Player of the Year. And again, we can revisit the topic of how the Super Rugby Player of the Year can be overlooked for the All Blacks. Exactly. I mean, I think Wallace Satiti has been exceptional. It had to be him. It was his award. Made every single post a winner and also was given that freedom. So I also feel that if Hoskins Sotutu had played in the All Blacks, he might have done something similar. He might have been given that roving commission that Wallace had and just excelled as well. And I think there's room for both of them in the All Blacks, and it's kind of still strange having someone who was the Super Rugby Player of the Year on the outer. But hey, look, it's recognition. I think Hoskins Sotutu still wants to leave. I think his people are talking to NZ Rugby and initially were rebuffed, but he'll play another season of for the Blues. I think he really wants to win another title for Vern Cotter, and they've got a great team chemistry there. But then after that, the offers are on the table, and all roads are pointing to England. I think for Hoskins, if he can get out of that contract.
Now, you turned breaking news journalist during the week on X, formerly Twitter, when you dropped a rugby bombshell, letting us all know that Sean Stevenson is leaving the Chiefs to play in Japan.
Yeah, apparently prematurely. I have been told off for that tweet. I mean, you're never too old to get told off, Piney.
No.
And but they are in talks, and that is Liam Williams, the Welsh fullback, was at Kubota. He had to leave. So there was a big gap with a massive salary attached in Japan, and Sean Stevenson, I mean, there have been stories of him sniffing around NRL, the Warriors, the Roosters, but this one here is a big money deal. I think it's going to go ahead. Sean Stevenson will go up to Japan. I think he's kissed his All Blacks hopes goodbye. I mean, the writing was on the wall, I think, when Shea Fihaki was called into the wider training group for the ABs. So, look, I think you want these players to obviously play in New Zealand because it makes the competition so much better. He is electric and excitement machine. But you just go, well, to be honest, how can you say no to that money? If there's a way to make it happen, I say fair enough, off you go. There's always talent coming through.
This is such an interesting case study, isn't it? Because it was after the 2023 Super Rugby season when Sean Stevenson was probably the standout player in the competition, and it just seemed so obvious to pick him for the All Blacks. And he got the one test, didn't he, down at Dunedin? Is that right?
That's right. Played one test in a World Cup year, which he would have been feeling pretty bullish about, but missed out on the squad. And a bit like Hoskins, really. There was just
let's face it, probably the two best Super Rugby players over the past 2 seasons just can't get a look in at their next step up. And I think it makes a big difference to how you're feeling about your path or your progression, really, in the sport. And right now it's probably time as a 28-year-old fullback to go and make some money.
Absolutely right. We'll keep an eye on that. We'll keep an eye on your Twitter account for the most up-to-date breaking news, if you are indeed still allowed to tweet by those who make these decisions.
I've got a shot collar now that's been given to me. So normally my guideline for tweeting is don't tweet anything or any joke that you couldn't tell your grandmother. I thought that was a pretty good guideline, but now I've got some new ones. So the shot collar is on.
All right, excellent. Other matters around the A-League, the derby last week. It continued to simmer, didn't it, the A-League derby with the coach's war of words. I think the players kind of moved on quite quickly. Giancarlo Italiano and Steve Corica continued to sort of, I guess, go at each other a little bit in the days that followed.
Oh, absolutely. This is exactly what that sport needs. So we were there for the 26,000 game, the derby game, Piney, and then I talk about falling off a cliff. The Wellington Phoenix hosted MacArthur yesterday, and it was 7,000, I think, at the Cape Tin.
Yep.
So this is where the issue, I think, for all New Zealand sports really is how do you keep that interest? How do you get people through the gates? There's a lot of work to be done on the marketing side, on the game day experience, and now we watch with interest because I think the battle is not just on the field. I think off the field, merchandise. The Auckland FC have sold 20,000 shirts. The Warriors, I think, sold 39,000 last season, jerseys. So they're sort of like, that's their goal, to get up to past 39,000. And I'm sure the Wellington Phoenix will be acutely aware of the fact that they need to keep up in that race as well. And bums on seats. Yeah.
Have to, James. They have to lift their game. They do. They have to. It's not negotiable now. You're so right. The difference between what we saw last weekend, and yes, I know it wasn't a derby in Wellington yesterday, but the difference is stark. They have to lift their off-field game, the Knicks. They do.
And the thing is, on the field, the Knicks are looking okay, but still a loss yesterday, a loss to Auckland FC. They're sliding down the table. To be honest, if both our New Zealand teams make the playoffs, and I hope they do, I actually think that the Phoenix are just as well equipped to do really well, to win it. Because imagine a fit Marco Rojas and obviously Costa Barbarouses and Alex Rufer just getting in, Ishige, the new Japanese player. So you can't feel down in the dumps about the results just yet, Phoenix fans. It just needs to somehow get that alchemy that Chiefy found last year with the team.
Indeed. Hey, quick word on Caitlin Clark. She's won the Time Magazine Athlete of the Year.
Yes, Caitlin Clark, the basketballer who all eyes were on her when she was at Iowa. She's 22 now, played her first season in the WNBA, was named Rookie of the Year, All-NBA First Team of the Year. She finished with an average of 19 points and 8 assists. And now she's Time Athlete of the Year, and the criticism, the Caitlin Clark haters are everywhere. They're coming in from the league itself, which I think is just shocking, really. You've actually got to just appreciate, sometimes there is such a thing as buzz. And look at Reagan. She's probably Athlete of the Year, right? You know? But in this case, she won the Olympics and she got dead last. So, I mean, in this case, we're talking about someone who is outstanding. Yes, she's at the start of her career, but I remember when there was a young Indian guy who came here who just made his debut, age 16, Sachin Tendulkar, and I got to interview him. He had 2 bodyguards with him, actually, at the Devon Hotel in New Plymouth. One was Muhammad Azharuddin and the other was Kapil Dev. So they wouldn't let him answer a question without sort of vetting it first. But the buzz around him was similar. Sometimes he wasn't the best in the world at that point, but everyone was talking about this kid. And I think that sometimes happens. It's been dragged into a race-based sort of argument and debate. And I don't think that's necessarily a factor. I think she's just captured the imagination of basketball fans around the world, and people need to sort of lay off, because I think it's this is the last thing you need, really, when someone is doing something, I think, that's really positive for the sport.
Yep, the buzz is real. Great to chat as always, James. Let's do it again next Sunday.
Cheers, Piney. Have a good one.
You have a good one too. James McOnie, part of our Sundays here on News Talk ZB.
For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to News Talk ZB weekends from midday or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.